everyone, this is Jackie with Full Moon Loon Designs. Today's video is going to be a few sections edited together once I'm done, but I'm going to be demonstrating how to make screens that you can use with powders, and you can try them with enamels as well. I've done both. I think they work really well with the glass powders, and I was actually quite surprised because what I'm going to be using to do this is a sheer curtain panel. This one was, I think, under $5 at Walmart. It measures 59 by 63. I think this was the smallest one that I saw. You'll get a lot of pieces of fabric out of this for screens. So you'll need a piece of fabric like this or a sheer curtain panel. You'll want to get an embroidery hoop. You could also build a frame and staple it down. You could use an old canvas frame. I find the embroidery hoop works quite well. You're going to need some heat transfer vinyl. This is just a scrap piece from, I'm not even sure what brand. It's not Cricut, it's not the Sizer or Caesar. This was just some kind of generic stuff I bought just for these iron-on pieces that I'm going to be making for screening, but it works really well. So you'll need a piece of that. Because you're going to be cutting an iron-on transfer, you're going to need some weeding tools. I have some of the basics. I have a pick. I do have a little knife if I have to get in there for a smaller area, a little spatula for lifting stuff off the mat, and some tweezers. You'll want a pair of scissors, or I've got a paper cutter, something to cut your vinyl with. You're going to want a piece of paper down or cardboard or something to catch the powders when you're working with them. You're going to need a piece of glass. This has been cleaned. This is just a 4-inch one that I'm going to be demonstrating on today. You'll need some type of scraper for when we're doing the passes with the screen printing. This one's just my Cricut scraper. I've got another one I normally use and I couldn't find it today, of course. We're going to be working with powders, so of course you need a mask or respirator. I don't have any N95 masks right now, which is what you should be using. Thank you, COVID, for that. But this one is an R95 and it is better than nothing, so I'll be using this when I'm using the powders. And finally, you'll need some glass powder that is compatible with your sheet glass. So for here, I just have some orange. Other things that are very helpful in this, and there are different machines. I'm going to be using the Cricut Maker today, and I'm going to demonstrate how to get to the design, cut the design, weed the design. So I'll cover all of that. And then the other thing that I like using, and you don't need this, you can use an iron, is the Cricut Easy Press. This is nice because I can set it to the temperature and the time, and it'll count it down. It'll heat it up, it'll tell me when it's ready, and it'll count down the time. And I'll also share with you where to find the settings for the Easy Press if you've not seen that website. So again, get all your materials together. I'm going to demonstrate making the design on the Cricut, and then after that I'll be showing how to actually apply the powders and do the screen printing. But I think you're really going to have fun with this. It's a cheap way to make your own screens and do some really fun projects. So here I'm in Design Space for my Cricut, and I'm going to search for a design that I want to create a screen from, and I want to do something paw print related. So I was, in all transparency, I was in here earlier today and picked my design. So I'm going to scroll through and look at the different designs. There's a lot of them that are really cute. Some of those hearts with all the little paw prints. It would just be more weeding than I wanted to do for this demonstration. But I'm going to scroll through and find my design. And this is all just within the Cricut Access. Lots of free things once you're in there. Here I found it. It's the little love with the paw print in the O. So I'm going to insert that in. And since I did already have that out earlier today, I am just going to demonstrate how you can drag it around here, resize it. Those of you using Design Space, you're familiar with this. But what I am going to actually do is go out and select the one that I've already saved that is at the right size. So here I'm just going to replace that image with the one that I already saved earlier today that I know is the right size. So I'm going to go to my projects, find that. And you could either just say make it, or I just clicked on customize, which means I'll just see it on my grid first, or in Design Space first, before it sends it to the mat canvas. That's what it's called. So I can double check the size, and yep, I'm going to be using a 4-inch piece of glass, so I want my design around 3 inches. I'm actually going to somewhat center it on the 4-inch piece of vinyl. And here's what's important is normally if you're doing heat transfer vinyl, like onto a shirt or an apron or a bag, you're going to reverse it, but we're not going to do that today. And I'll demonstrate why when I'm showing the screening, but we're not going to mirror it. We're going to just do the normal cut. And so it's taking just a second or so to connect to my Bluetooth. Once it finds the maker, we'll see it, and then I'll pick my material. I am not using any of the Cricut brands today. It's just a scrap, some that I bought, I believe, on eBay. So I just picked the iron-on non-Cricut brand. And at this point, it's going to send me over to my machine to actually load the mat. And from there, we'll load and we'll cut the image, and I'll continue from there. After I have found my design and decided on what I was going to cut, I set it up so that it would cut onto this 4-inch piece of vinyl that I've already trimmed down to size. And at this point now I'm going to follow the prompts and load the Cricut. It'll flash again when it's ready to start. So the design's done cutting. I'm going to unload the mat. And at this point I'm done with the Cricut for this piece, and I'm going to just shut that off and move that out of the way. So now I have my design. It's been cut, and at this point, if you're familiar with doing heat transfer projects or any type of vinyl project, there is the process known as weeding. So I'm going to use some basic tools. Have my readers, because this is sometimes the toughest part, but from here I'm just going to work on pulling out the pieces where I want my powder to go through. Sometimes it helps if you have a little piece of tape or like painter's tape, masking tape, any of that nearby, so that as you grab these little pieces they'll stick to it. I didn't think that far ahead, so I'm just going to let them fall off onto the mat over here. So you get the point. I'm going to pull out all of the little areas that need to be weeded out, and then when I turn the camera back on, this will be ready for the ironing process. Alright, so my design has now been weeded. Now you will notice, and I believe I will touch on this when I'm in the design space setting it up to cut, I did not do this mirrored. And if you've done iron-on transfers or iron-on vinyl, you know what I'm talking about. But when you're doing these and you're cutting them, normally if I were going to put this on a t-shirt, I would have mirrored the design, because this is the side that's going to go against your fabric. Now the reason I don't mirror it is because the side that I iron this to the fabric is actually going to be the underside when I'm doing my screening. I just like my top surface to be the really smooth fabric. So I don't mirror, and also I don't cut away all of the excess for something like this. You certainly could, then you're just going to have a lot of powder to clean up because it's going to be all around your design. This is going to help block that from going through. So I know I have a 4-inch piece of glass. I cut my vinyl at 4 inches, and then I just made sure that my design fit in there. I didn't quite center this one, but I think you get the idea. I'm using a light tack mat here. Sometimes that's a little easier. I have cut a piece of fabric that will fit my hoop, and the size you need is totally going to be dependent. I'm going to use that smaller pink hoop. If I were using this one, actually it might work with this one as well. You just need to make sure that you have enough clearance around it so that you can put the hoop together and have that fabric taut and not have it pulling through. So you could get very fancy. You could finish the edges of your screens. If you're going to use them again and again, you probably want to do that just so that they don't start fraying. I'm not going to do that for this. You could also mask off the edges with masking tape. You could use the iron-on stuff to hem them. Again, not going to do it for this. But I do have a piece cut that I am going to apply this vinyl to. So I like to think of gravity as my friend in this case. And I just am going to start peeling the design back. And if you see some of it starting to stick to the mat, like I do see some of the letters, just try to carefully push them back down into the design. Just about got it. And sometimes little pieces will pop out. You know, sometimes your blade will cut through the liner side. Again, if you've not done heat transfer vinyl, the tip I can give you, and you should see it even when you're using your Cricut, is, I don't know if you can tell here, but the shiny side goes down. This is the backing that you're going to be ironing against. This is what will actually be on your design. So again, normally heat transfer vinyl, you're going to mirror. This one I did not. So I have my Easy Press. Let's see if I can get the cord pulled out from between the tables here, and I'll show you how I'm going to set that up. I have a video clip in which I'm going to show you in just a moment on how to find your settings. But I know for this one that I need to go 315 degrees for 30 seconds. So I'm going to power it on. And I'm just going to hit the up arrow, or I'm sorry, the plus sign until I get to 315. It's already defaulted at 30 seconds. You can see that. So that is going to heat up. And I do have one of the Easy Press mats. Again, not critical. You can use towel, whatever you normally use to iron on. Again, this step you can use an iron. You just have to know what settings you're going to use for your fabric. I had looked this up, and I'll show you the heat guide setting, and I'm actually going to give it a quick little press just to get some of the wrinkles out of the fabric. If you have the Cricut Easy Press, any one of them, I recommend going to the cricut.com/heat guide site. You can pick your heat press, pick your iron-on type. I just use the everyday iron-on. It's not a Cricut brand I'm using, but that worked. And then I'm picking polyester for my fabric. Also, I am going to be using the mat, so that I selected that and hit apply. And as you can see, it gives me how much time and what temperature, and then gives some other suggestions on what you need. So again, cricut.com/heat guide. As it gets up to temp, it'll probably help remove those wrinkles a bit more. But this was kind of creased because it's been up in my cabinet. And it'll be like that when you take it right out of the package as well. Static clean. Alright. So this is nice and smooth and a bit staticky, which actually might work in our favor here. So I've got my fabric down. I am going to put my design down, and now it's not on the mat, it's going to be shiny side up. So I'm just going to center it because I'm going to center it on the hoop once I have this ironed on. Shiny side up. I don't believe you have to use the Teflon mats, but again, I always do. I just figure it's a little bit more protection. So I'm going to put that there while we wait for the Cricut to finish heating up. And it's pretty quick, the Easy Press. We're up to 275. Fabric is down. My design is down. And of course, if you were ironing this on again on a t-shirt, you would not only have pulled away all of the excess vinyl, you also would have done it in reverse. But you're going to see in a little bit why I don't reverse it. Alright, we're almost to temp. Okay, we have reached temperature. It gave me a little chirp sound that it's ready. It's set to 315. At this point, I should check and make sure where my design is. I'm going to set it down, and this one said light pressure, so I'm really not going to wrench on it. And I'm just going to hit that little Cricut logo, and it's going to count down the 30 seconds. Okay, our 30 seconds is almost up. You'll hear an audible sound. That means it's done. This one said to turn it over and do 15 seconds on the other side, so we'll also do that. So I'm going to lift up my Teflon sheet. At this point, I should be able to peel the backing off. You can let it cool a little bit. This stuff usually peels pretty well. If you have anything coming up, you might need to put it back down for add a little more heat. So all I'm doing here is peeling off the backing. And of course, I had to leave just a little behind. All right, there is my screen. Yes, that is backwards, but now I'll show you why I do it this way. Because when I put this in my hoop and when I'm going to screen over it, I like to have the smooth side. Granted, it's ironed down, so you know this shouldn't be an issue, but I again like to do that on the smooth side. This did say to flip it over and go another 15 seconds, so in this case I'm actually going to put my Teflon under that transfer, or I'm sorry, under that vinyl. I always want to call it a transfer. And over, again, because it's such sheer fabric. And now I'm just going to set it and go for 15 seconds. I'm just going to hit the button again, and once it gets to 15, then I'll just remove it. I don't need it to count all the way down or adjust the settings. Just easier this way. And if you went a full 30 seconds on the underside, it's probably not going to hurt anything either. In fact, I just went a little over 15. So at this point, I'm going to power off that. So here's our design. Now I'll put it in a hoop. And I probably should have measured it for this hoop. I was just going to switch and use the one that I already created, but why not go through all the steps, right? Hopefully this will work. Oh yeah. Try to center it best as you can. It just makes it easier during the screening process. And I do believe Shorty Watkins found square hoops, or maybe they were even rectangle, probably on Amazon. We'll have to check with her. Any embroidery hoop will work. Again, you could use other things. You could do it by fastening this down over a canvas frame. If you have access to wood and tools, you could make your own frames. But embroidery hoops are cheap, especially these little plastic ones. And so all I'm doing is now making sure that this is nice and taut. So now you see I've got a screen for my design. It's been attached to my hoop, and now we're ready to screen. Alright, I'm going to demonstrate the screening process as I filmed it earlier, and for some reason my GoPro stopped and I didn't catch it, so I'm going to redo it. I have my cleaned glass down on some paper so I can recapture my powder. I have the screen that I showed creating and in my hoop, and I should make sure it's still taut because I've already used it. Just didn't get it on film. Oh, I guess it's not film anymore. Didn't get it digitally. I am going to set that screen up and center it. And I'm going to stand up to do this part. I have my trusty mask to protect me from the glass powders. And I have a feeling Scooter's going to start barking, so apologize if he does. Okay. step. Again, I've got the smooth surface up. That's why we didn't go in reverse. I'm going to add my powders. Whoops. Okay, that's probably way more than I needed, and I might have just made a mess, but let's try it. Scraper. I'm going to go through it like 4 passes, 2 each direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got a paper towel over here. I'm just going to lift the hoop. And there is the screen design. Now, I did get a little bit on the edge. I probably didn't quite have it centered so that it was protected by the vinyl. But there's the screen design. How fun is that, and how easy was that to do with just some common stuff around if you have a sheer curtain panel? At this point, I'm going to shake off all of the powders from both sides. And this can be washed. Again, if you're going to use it a lot, I probably would recommend hemming the edges, but I'm not going to do that on this one. But I will get as much of the powder off that I can reclaim. And that powder is just going to go right back into the jar. Goodness bless you, Scooter. And I have some more there that I can pick up. But you get the point. There's no waste. I have a screened design now, and hopefully my GoPro is capturing it this time. So here is a closer look at that piece of glass after the screen printing with the powder. And as you can see, it covered pretty well. You may need to experiment and go more passes. This one was, I believe it was 2 in each direction, so 4 total swipes across. Seemed to cover well for this application. You'll need to experiment because some of your powders are going to fade a little bit if you don't have a heavier application. A lot of it's going to depend on the color of powder and the color of glass you have it on. This should do well. I'll get a picture once it's fired, but I'm going to go ahead and post this video before that point because I don't want to fire just this one piece. I want to fill up that kiln. But I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know you'll enjoy doing the process if you have a Cricut or any other cutting machine. I just happen to like my Cricut, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks, and have a wonderful day.